The fluorescent lights of Terminal C buzzed overhead as hundreds of travelers shuffled through the security checkpoint at Dallas International Airport. Suitcases rolled across polished floors, children whined about delayed flights, and announcement chimes echoed through the massive space. Gate 47 had the longest line, passengers cramming together like sardines, all desperate to board Flight 892 to Atlanta. The air smelled of stale coffee and anxiety. Everyone checked their watches, tapped their phones, muttered complaints under their breath. Time was running out, and nobody wanted to miss their connection. Chen adjusted the strap of her leather briefcase and took her place at the back of the line. She wore a navy blue blazer over a crisp white shirt, her credentials tucked safely in her inner pocket. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her brown eyes scanned the gate area with practiced precision. She had flown this route dozens of times, but today was different. Today, she was working. The Federal Aviation Administration had received 3 formal complaints about this particular gate in the past month, all describing similar incidents of discrimination and abuse of power. Maya's job was to see it for herself. The line moved forward slowly, each passenger handing over boarding passes and identification documents to the gate agent behind the counter. Rick Torres sat in his crisp airline uniform, his name tag gleaming under the lights. He processed each traveler with mechanical efficiency, barely looking up as he scanned tickets and waved people through. White passengers, Asian passengers, Latino passengers, all moved through without issue. But when Maya finally reached the counter and placed her passport on the desk, something in Rick's expression changed. His jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed. He picked up her passport like it was contaminated. "This doesn't look right," Rick announced loudly, holding the document up to the light. His voice carried across the gate area, heads turning to watch the confrontation unfold. "Where did you get this passport?" Maya kept her voice steady and professional. "That's a standard United States passport, issued by the Department of State. You can verify the security features if you have concerns." "Don't tell me how to do my job," Rick snapped back, flipping through the pages with exaggerated suspicion. "I've been working this gate for 8 years. I know a fake when I see one." Several passengers in line behind Maya exchanged uncomfortable glances. A young woman near the back pulled out her phone and started recording. An elderly gentleman stepped forward slightly, as if preparing to intervene, but his wife pulled him back with a gentle hand on his arm. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. "Sir, I can assure you that every document I'm presenting is legitimate and valid," Maya said calmly, though her heart pounded in her chest. This was exactly what the complaints had described. "Perhaps you could call a supervisor to verify." Rick's face flushed red with anger. "I don't need a supervisor to tell me what I can see with my own eyes." He grabbed the passport with both hands, and before anyone could react, he tore it straight down the middle. The ripping sound echoed through the gate area like a gunshot. Gasps erupted from the crowd. The young woman recording nearly dropped her phone. Rick threw the torn pieces onto the counter with contempt. "This airport has standards. We don't allow fraudulent documents on our aircraft." Maya stared at the destroyed passport, her expression unreadable. Inside, she felt a familiar mixture of rage and sadness, the same emotions countless others had felt in similar situations throughout history. But she had trained for this moment. She had prepared for exactly this scenario. Her voice remained calm, almost unnaturally so. "Can you explain which specific security features on that passport led you to believe it was fraudulent?" Maya asked, pulling a small notebook from her briefcase. "Was it the embedded chip? The holographic image? The UV reactive ink? Please be specific." Rick faltered for just a moment, clearly not expecting technical questions. "I don't have to explain anything to you. Security. We need security at gate 47. Two airport security officers appeared within seconds, their hands resting on their belts as they assessed the situation. The crowd had grown larger now, passengers from neighboring gates drifting over to see what was happening. The woman with the phone had been joined by 3 others, all recording from different angles. Social media was about to explode. What seems to be the problem here? The taller security officer asked, looking between Rick and Maya. This woman presented fraudulent travel documents, Rick declared triumphantly, pointing at the torn passport pieces. I've detained her pending further investigation. Maya reached into her briefcase with slow, deliberate movements, making sure everyone could see exactly what she was doing. She pulled out a leather wallet and flipped it open to reveal a gold badge and official identification card. The Federal Aviation Administration seal glinted under the terminal lights. Both security officers leaned in to read the credentials, their expressions shifting from neutral to shocked in seconds. My name is Maya Chen, and I'm a federal inspector with the FAA's Civil Rights Division, she announced clearly, her voice carrying across the now silent gate area. I've been conducting an undercover compliance inspection of this facility for the past 45 minutes. Mr. Torres, you just destroyed federal property and violated approximately 7 different aviation regulations, not to mention several civil rights statutes. The color drained from Rick's face like water swirling down a drain. His mouth opened and closed wordlessly, resembling a fish gasping for air. The security officers took an instinctive step backward, suddenly wanting no part of this situation. The passengers erupted in a mixture of applause, shocked exclamations, and nervous laughter. The woman who had been recording shouted, "I got everything. Every single second." Within minutes, the airport supervisor arrived at the gate, followed by 2 more FAA officials who had been stationed elsewhere in the terminal. Maya calmly recounted every detail of the interaction while Rick sat frozen in his chair, his career crumbling around him like sandcastles before the tide. The supervisor apologized profusely, promised immediate action, and escorted Rick away from the gate. His uniform seemed to hang differently on him now, no longer a symbol of authority but a costume that no longer fit. Other gate agents watched in stunned silence, suddenly very aware of their own behavior toward passengers. Maya gathered the torn pieces of her passport, which would serve as evidence in the official report. She thanked the passengers who had recorded the incident, collecting their contact information for witness statements. The elderly gentleman who had almost intervened earlier approached her with tears in his eyes. "Thank you," he said quietly. "My grandson is black. He flies alone sometimes for college. Now maybe he won't have to go through things like this." Maya smiled genuinely for the first time that day. That's exactly why we do this work. Change happens when people refuse to stay silent. As she boarded her flight 20 minutes later, using her backup credentials, Maya reflected on the day's events. One bad actor had been removed, but the system still had cracks that needed repair. Her report would recommend mandatory bias training for all gate personnel, updated protocols for document verification, and increased oversight at facilities with complaint histories. It wasn't perfect justice, but it was a step forward. The passengers who had witnessed everything boarded with a different energy, speaking quietly among themselves about what they had seen, how they would act differently next time they saw injustice unfold before their eyes, somewhere over Missouri. As the plane cut through clouds and evening sunlight painted the sky in shades of orange and gold, Maya finished typing her preliminary report. Real change required persistence, documentation, and people brave enough to stand up when it would be easier to look away. Today had proven that truth still mattered, that accountability still existed, and that dignity could not be torn up like a passport. Tomorrow, she would visit another airport, conduct another inspection, and continue the work that so desperately needed doing. The fight for justice never truly ended, but every small victory added up to something larger, something that future generations would inherit and hopefully never take for granted.